Hello, friends. Welcome to my second presentation. I'm going to talk about the ongoing global pandemic that is COVID-19 pandemic. I call it Chinese Communist Party virus pandemic. In in this presentation, I'm going to talk about Corona fallout and the benefits to China. And of course, it does have a close link, absolutely a great link to the Chinese Communist Party's sinister game plan that has been ongoing for last 4 to 5 months. Although they have designed this sinister, very sinister, and vicious game plan some time ago, at least a year and a half to 2 years ago, when they had invented this virus, and then they have planned the biowarfare on the global community. I just want to take you back to my previous where I had logically, based on the events and the analysis of the events, that this virus is not invented in a lab, no other than the lab located at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And as they had planned a very dangerous game to inflict the disease, or the, I would say, to inflict the biowarfare on the world community, especially the nations that belong to G7 group of nations as well as NATO group of nations. Why am I saying this? If you want to ask me the question, I would definitely like to answer that. The reason behind that is uh, the most affected, the worst affected nation in the world with this coronavirus, CCP virus, is the United States of America, where more than 300,000 people are affected with this coronavirus, CCP virus, and more than 56,000 people have already lost to this pandemic. So not only the loss of life, they are losing lot of economy. They have lost lot of economic growth. They have lost in terms of finance, in terms of economy, in terms of trade, in terms of lives. you know so yes, before I go ahead on this presentation, I would like to talk about the events those were happening in the city of Wuhan or in China in general. Few months ago, I would say first week to second week of January 2020, where you would have seen the videos, news clippings, or videos on social media saying how smartly and how smoothly, how proactively the Chinese authorities are dealing with this outbreak, although they had not informed the world community that this virus can transmit from human to human, because they deliberately wanted to keep the world community in dark, so that their plan can be successful as per their scripted, a well scripted story, a well scripted plan. you know and on those videos, you must have seen they had taken very proactive measures to contain or to control this, or to deal with the pandemic. That is, for example, they were imposing lockdown on the Wuhan city. They were using facial recognition technology, using artificial intelligence, also taking use of social media applications to detect the potential patient or potential infected person. And thereafter, they were imposing immediate quarantine on those people, kind of like so-called proactive steps Chinese authorities were seen taking in those news clippings or videos that were circulated all around the world by the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda machinery. I also want to talk about a little bit, mention about a little bit about the game plan strategies. They had um, very smartly, very brilliantly incorporated the tactics, warfare tactics, those used or mentioned in the ancient books, as well as in the book written by the People's Liberation Army colonels in 1999. Okay, but few of those ancient tactics I'm gonna list here again. The first one is inflicting injury on oneself. So, they basically inflicted this disease on themselves in the city of Wuhan, so that they can convince the world community, look, we got infected, we are the one who were also the victim of this virus. So that, that is the kind of way of winning the trust of the other party. Here other party is the world community. Second one I'm going to mention here is use the opportunity the to fire to rob. So what does mean? It is also self-explanatory, but I would like to just give a kind of little bit explanation that, when a country or when your enemy is dealing with the unrest, the pandemic, or the disease, famine, natural calamity, other kind of natural calamity, they do not consider any outside threat as an immediate threat, and that time they are basically their focus is on something else, and then you can attack the enemy, and you easily win the enemy, I'm sorry, win the battle. Okay, here similar situation is happening. The countries which are considered to be arch rival of the China, such as the United States of America, Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, they are all kind of part of a G7 as well as NATO group. Okay, including Denmark, Sweden, all these countries, they have been dealing with they are struggling with the coronavirus pandemic, that is CCP virus pandemic, and they are basically their first focus is on to deal with this disease. Okay, and third one is, but not the least, make your enemy tire himself out while conserving energy. And again, this is also self-explanatory. Many other tactics have been incorporated in this plan. The facts which are involved with this uh, pandemic, and of course with the kind of origin of this pandemic. When the virus outbreak started happening in China, the city of Wuhan, and when the news of outbreak started trickling out of China, then you must have seen those videos. As I mentioned to you earlier, that they looked pretty much well prepared in dealing with this outbreak. What was the reason that they were already well prepared? I think there was a kind of a gap in their performance, as if it was a natural event or natural things that is happening here, because that gives a contradiction that when this outbreak started, all of a sudden from nowhere, and then it started transmitting from one person to another person, and took a shape of an epidemic, and then the agencies, the authorities seem to have been well prepared in all respects. Although China did attempt to show to the world that it was struggling to deal with this kind of sudden outbreak of the virus, But on the other hand, I'm just going to give you some examples. You know, they had all the place. They already started using the artificial intelligence for dealing with this outbreak, and did not have any problem, any in case of curing the on themselves. So they must have all of a sudden, but it was a part of a larger plan, larger game plan, and that resulted into all that human tragedy. So, if you think from that point of view, if you start thinking deep, you go into the scenario, how did it happen? You know, China was the only country which seemed to have been well prepared for dealing have failed to do so, just because they were already prepared. They were using like brain, they were using the presence of mind, they were using common sense to deal with this kind of a pandemic. No, because it was part of their larger game plan, and they knew what will happen, what will result out of this kind of pandemic when this will happen, because they had already done all the research into that. So that is why I definitely doubt that this pandemic was a sudden pandemic. It was well planned pandemic that was unleashed on themselves first, and then the world community, the entire humanity was subjected to this pandemic, this human outcry. So, you know, later on they started asking about like help from the world also, and I think it was just kind of show off. It was a eyewash for the world community that okay, we are dealing with this. We are not able to deal with this situation on our own. So they started, even looking forward for the help. They didn't mind. But what happened is that in the meantime, Chinese government had activated its domestic as well as international agents for buying up all the essential from all around the world, because they knew the next step is that the world is going to suffer from this, and then that time the world would not have all such protective gears, essentials, medical essential items such as personal protective equipments, masks, surgical gowns, or the ventilators or the respirators. They basically, and then that's why they have their agents who are buying up all these essentials from all around the world, and of course the countries also donated a lot of these essentials to Chinese government, to China, and that way they were able to hold all the necessary essential items from all around the world. So they had um, bought up almost everything. I still remember a few of my friends from China had requested me to send them masks, and when I went to the store, I could not find any mask available at the store. So you can very well imagine all thing, all such necessary things, sanitizer, everything was bought up by their agents, of course, through their friends or whatever, their families, and they basically bought up all the things and sent to China. And when it attacked the other countries, they did not have those essentials. And in this game, the World Health Organization was a full accomplice. It was basically Chinese government has really connived with the World Health Organization, under the direction of Dr. Tedros, and I do feel that I'm outrightly right that Chinese government and WHO, um, under the leadership of Dr. Tedros, have misled the world, and world did not expect that this pandemic would devastate them too, and they totally relied on misinformation given by both China as well as WHO. And later on, you know what? Because of the denial, outright denial by China and WHO, because it was parroting Chinese narrative, okay, the world started suffering badly in terms of economy, in terms of loss of lives, and it was really heartbreaking. So, what next? I'm going to talk about in detail what will happen next. In this is my basically I have broken out this presentation into two parts, and in my second part I will talk about the strategic plan they had made, that is called Made in China 2025, and it was proposed by the then Premier Li Kang. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly, and it was um, prepared with the help of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. In this plan, they intend to take control of world's advanced technology, advanced technologies and its research and development, and thereby the manufacturing of such advanced technology equipments in their own country. So made in China is all about that, and those technologies belong to 10 highly specialized areas, and I'll talk about that in my second part of this presentation. Please do subscribe to my channel, and if you like this presentation, please give me a thumbs up. That would definitely give me a morale boost. And since I'm very new to this kind of presentation, but I really wanted to share my thoughts, my views, my opinion, on all these uh, developments that have been happening in the world, starting from China in last 5 6 months. And my heart is basically going out to the people, to the countries who have been devastated with this pandemic, and that's what forced me to start this series. I really thank you for your time and your patience, and look forward to seeing you in my second part of this presentation. Thank you very much.